Tonight, I will tell you all about death, grief, and rainbows. The day my grandma died was the beginning of the worst 2 weeks of my life. It was 4 in the morning. I was lying in the darkness of my room. My phone rang. It was my mom. She was sobbing and crying. Kit, wala na si Lola mo. At that moment, it felt surreal. I could only stand outside my Lola's house and watch the people from the funeral home in protective gear put her in a casket. She died of COVID complications. I really wanted to say goodbye in person, but I couldn't. You know, I have never felt death so close, so near, and so personal. I wallowed alone in despair. Imagine this. My mom had COVID. My dad had COVID. My two sisters had COVID. They were all bedridden. My dad had it worse. Complications from his diabetes made breathing extra difficult, even painful. I was the only one without COVID, which was fortunate because I lived separately. 2 days after the funeral, my Tita Rhoda, my aunt, died. She died on our sofa 5 minutes after praying and pleading to God to take her and end her pain. She had a really difficult life. That day, my dad almost died too. He recalled his breathing getting shorter and shorter while hallucinating and seeing blurry faces of his mom, his dad, and siblings who passed before him. He prayed and pleaded a little differently from my Tita Rhoda's prayer. My dad prayed for healing. He prayed for a chance to live. He pleaded that if God be willing, God will make him whole. And my dad will dedicate his entire life serving him. That afternoon, I was on my way home after getting supplies, medicine, and food for my ill family because I was the only one who is well enough. I sobbed and prayed through my face mask, asking God for some kind of comfort, at least a modicum of solace for my heavy and grieving heart. Then I looked up and saw a rainbow. No, there were actually two rainbows, one on top of each other. It was enough to stop my motorcycle at the side of the road and cry in relief. It was as if God was telling me that everything will be okay. How can it be okay? Nothing was okay. Nothing was going right. In the Old Testament, the rainbow was the symbol of God's promise to Noah that he will never send a flood to the earth ever again. It was a covenant, a binding and solemn promise of relief, comfort, and solace. These rainbows gave me the perspective and strength I needed at that very moment. Through these terrible and difficult days, I only saw death, despair, sadness, hopelessness, and helplessness. It was as if every single moment I braced myself for the next bad news, for the next disaster, for the next nightmare. These rainbows made me realize that God's hand had been there all along. Miracle after miracle. Let me share to you some of them. The first miracle was that my grandma died with all of her children present. She died loved, cared for, and nurtured until her very last breath. She passed peacefully. Second miracle. Our friends, church members, and other family members sent help through food, medicine, and finances. They sent prayers, love, and encouragement to our family. And third miracle, in my belief, in my belief, is that my aunt finally received the rest she deserved. It was God's will. So, what did I learn from that experience? I learned that no matter how raging and terrible the storms of life are, when we persevere, we will succeed. We keep living. We become efflorescent, blooming despite the odds. It is when the darkest that we see the stars. It is when we descend to the deepest lows that we appreciate the soar to greater heights. So, if you are in a terrible storm of your life at this very moment, please know that God is mindful of you. He will not leave you comfortless. The storm will pass, and you will discover that you are stronger and better because of it. Just like what Casey Musgrave said in her song, when it rains, it pours, but you didn't even notice. It ain't raining anymore. It's hard to breathe when all you know is the struggle of staying above the rising water line. But the sky is finally open, the rain and wind stop blowing, and you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Hold tight to your umbrella, darling, I am trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. Sorry. Thank you.